Hello, Sassy Nari. Thank you for joining me today. Fat, thin, hairy, dark, light, big nose, small eyes, thin lips, flat chested. There are tons of ways to describe a body, and these terms form our body image. आई थिंक कि हम में से शायद ही कोई होगा जो अपनी बॉडी के एटलीस्ट एक पार्ट को क्रिटिसाइज ना करता हो. I too am guilty of this, okay? And I'm struggling with a poor body image even at the age of 38. तो when I think about it, I feel कि जो हमारे बच्चे हैं, टीनेजर्स हैं, यंग अडल्ट्स हैं, वो किस चीज़ से गुजर रहे होंगे, उनकी बॉडी इमेज कैसी होगी. क्योंकि हमें ये पुअर बॉडी इमेज अपनी फैमिलीज और अपनी सोसाइटी से मिलती है और ना चाहते हुए भी हम उसे अपने बच्चों को ट्रांसफ़र कर रहे हैं. Oh, and kids these days are exposed to way too many images through social media and other platforms. चाहे कितनी भी इंक्लूसिविटी और बॉडी न्यूट्रलिटी की बात कर लें, पर the perfect 10 figure is still the ideal. Besides this, a child suffering from hair and skin issues, health problems, or disability is still sniggered at. Yes. We do not realize their struggles and have no idea what they are feeling every day, but a lot of us choose to look down at them. I can keep talking, but the point is that we have to look beyond the body. So when I came across the book Hug Yourself, curated by Vinitha Ramchandani, I instantly decided to have her on the podcast. Vinitha has written over 25 books tailored for children and young adults. Her book Hug Yourself has body positivity and empowerment stories for teenagers. It's a powerful anthology of 16 stories featuring prominent writers like Anuja Chandramouli, Harshika Udasi, and Santini Govindan, among others. In my view, everyone needs to read this book, from teenagers to adults. अब इस एपिसोड में हम क्या बात करेंगे? We will talk about Vinitha's observations on today's teens and body image, her and my struggles with body image, and how have things changed from when Vinitha was young to now. हम क्या कर सकते हैं चीज़ों को बेटर करने के लिए, एंड हाउ वी पेरेंट्स कैन हेल्प किड्स इन बिल्डिंग अ पॉजिटिव बॉडी इमेज. दिस इज़ अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कॉन्वर्सेशन, एंड सो यू हैव टू हेल्प मी ब्रिंग मोर सच कॉन्वर्सेशंस टू यू. All you have to do is to share this episode with your friends. Just copy the link and send it across over WhatsApp, email, or a simple text message. Thank you. Hey Sassy Nari, welcome to Little Fixes. This is your host Matri, a social media professional, a mother, and a simple yet sassy woman just like you. Join me for 3 simple and practical ideas that help you in transforming into your best self. This mental health and personal growth podcast is a reminder that you matter. And now to our guest. Hi Vinitha, welcome to Little Fixes.
Hi, Maitri. I'm so glad and so grateful that I'm here as a part of this podcast.
So am I. And this topic that we are going to talk about is quite close to my heart because it is about body image. And I have been meaning to talk about this on my podcast in a solo episode since many months. But something stops me. मतलब मुझे लगता है कि या तो people will start judging me और या फिर they will laugh at me. But when I read your book, I knew that we have to do this. So now today we are doing it. We are talking about body image issues and lots of things that come with it. कि Vinitha, now I would like to know from you because you seem to be very vocal about it. You have written a complete book about it. So I want to know about your experience with body image issues.
I grew up and grew into adulthood not realizing how beautiful I was. I always felt ugly, and I always felt that I would never be loved. And I think I feel when I look at my pictures now, I keep thinking I wish I had known that I was gorgeous as a child, I was gorgeous as an adult. But I grew at a time where dark skin was considered not beautiful, and I
Mm-hmm.
felt not beautiful at all. I always felt ugly and heavy, and also body size. And again, I'm thinking at no point in time was I a fat child, but I never felt not fat. So I was dark skinned and fat, and I grew up believing that I could never be loved. I remember a sister of mine telling me, and I so believed her. So we have a 5-year gap, and she told me that you're only going to get darker and darker. And in some time, the only way to spot you would be when you smile, and the whites of your eyes and your teeth will be the only way in when it grew dark that you'll be able to be seen. And it was I was very small, and I remember thinking, being completely horrified about how dark I would get. And of course, I was going to get darker. This is, I could see the sun would make me darker and darker and darker. I believe that I mean, as I researched this subject and as I was writing it, I realized that uh, most of the damage that we have, that we grow into having as adults, comes from childhood, and it also comes, unfortunately, from the people we love the most, our family and our close friends. So we grow on to believing that, that we can't be loved, and all. It affects our self-esteem. It affects when what affects your self-esteem affects your life choices. It affects your professional choices. It affects how you can negotiate, whether you can negotiate, what boundaries you hold and have. And it affects your relationships in life, who you choose to love, who you marry, the people you surround yourself, your friends. Every single thing comes from how you believe you are, and that comes from body image, and that is from childhood. So it
Yes, I
affected every
agree on
every
that.
single part of me. The career choices I made, the relationship choices I made, the friends I was surrounded by, the who I thought. Um, Anyone who showed me little bit of attention was I was to be so amazed and happy they could be my friends, that they allowed themselves to be friended by me. Things like that. Really poor self-esteem issues and choices that I made for very very long time, quite into adulthood actually.
My story is also the same or very similar, I would say. I also never felt beautiful. I got my glasses when I was maybe 9 years old, and
Yeah.
even as a younger kid, I used to think I don't look good. मतलब, my parents also didn't help. They were also like कि dark hair skin, जबकि both my parents are on the darker side.
Right.
राइट बट दे वुड स्टिल से, या फिर किसी और ने बोल दिया, हमारे फ्रेंड्स ने ही बोल दिया, इट्स बट
Right.
इतना ज्यादा लोगों के मन में प्रेजुडिस होता है, या आई डोंट नो क्या होता है, क्या कंडीशनिंग होती है, पीपल कीप सेइंग दैट टू यू. आई नेवर फेल्ट ब्यूटीफुल, आई ऑलवेज फेल्ट, आई वुड से अगली, आई फेल्ट अगली. My friends, I used to think how pretty they are, and I was not even fat. And still, when I was in my graduation, in my masters, I started feeling fat because my mother said कि you should not wear jeans with short tops because you are older now and you are on the healthier side. तो my sister was very thin, तो सबको शायद ये लगता था comparatively कि she is fat. फिर
Yeah.
उसके बाद I got married. I got married
Mm.
into a family where everyone is fair. सास ससुर sisters in law, even my husband. Now when I reached there, वहां पे relatives were like, आपके पैर तो साफ हैं, साफ मतलब क्लियर स्किन है, लाइटर है, और बट आपका फेस डार्क है, कुछ लगा लिया करो, सही हो जाएगा, धूप में बहुत ट्रैवल करते होंगे. आई वॉज अ न्यू ब्राइड एंड दे वर टेलिंग
Yeah.
मी दिस, और आई कुड नॉट से एनीथिंग. मतलब मुझे
Yeah.
खराब भी लगा. आई ऑल्सो फेल्ट कि हाउ कैन दे टॉक लाइक दिस, बट स्टिल आई डिड नॉट से एनीथिंग.
Yeah.
फिर उसके बाद आई स्टिल डोंट फील कि हाँ आई लुक गुड, या फिर आई हैव अ गुड बॉडी. अभी भी वो बॉडी इमेज पे काम चल ही रहा है, एंड दैट्स
Right.
व्हाई आई कुड नॉट डू दैट सोलो एपिसोड विच आई meant to do. This is very difficult, I think. And when I look at you, I see a gorgeous woman who has very nice skin, nice hair, and still you grew up thinking that. So I think anyone can feel like that. So it's
Yeah.
difficult.
Yeah. And that you were talking about your parents, my mother was fair skinned, my father was dark skinned, but I I got the most amount of grief from my father. So I feel like a lot of this intergenerational, somebody must have told them, uh, and we pass it on to our children. And I wonder, my children tell me that uh, I have body shamed them, and I think I have tried so hard to be in this space. I've worked so hard at it, knowing the self esteem issues cannot come and should not come from parents. And yet they tell me that, I have. Somewhere I told I would ask my daughter, would she want to go on a diet? And it felt like she was body shaming. So, yeah, I didn't intend to pass it on, but I think apparently I have. And I don't know if my father must have been body shamed when he was older, younger, who knows? He passed it on to me. everyone around me at the generation I grew up and I came from. It was dark skin means more dowry. The girl is going to be a liability. No one wants to marry her. We came from that. I came from that generation. Even though we were very, very, you know, educated and we went to college and we spoke, we had talked about gender rights and stuff like that, and still, it's still,
Yeah.
it just moved on to being this. So I think that whether we like it or not, we have to make very, very conscious effort to. This is a space where children pick up so sensitively and so easily, and we'd be so careful what we pass on to them. And often, the voice in our head, when we are not calm, is the voice of that parent who was also not calm. And when we are calm and fine, everything is okay. We are able to put in our wiser hats, we're able to put our more cognitive selves in place. But when we are not calm and when things ruffle us, those are the moments when, if we can
Yeah.
practice being more self-aware and hold on to that voice in our head which comes into our mouths, I think that will be like, these are the lessons I'm seeking to learn even now.
Hmm. So, Vinitha, your kids are teenagers.
My kids are teenagers, yes.
Okay, so now I'd like to know what issues you have seen, like not just with your kids while researching for this book or maybe talking to other teenagers. Have you seen that things have changed? Like what has changed, how it has changed?
This book came about with a conversation with a friend of mine, and two or three of us women from a city and talking, and we were talking about how, and I'm going to talk about this during our again in when I meet a group of people, that do you, of all times in your life, from childhood to adolescence to youth and then middle age, what has been your toughest period? And you will hear this again and again. The toughest time in your life is your adolescence years. And there's a biological reason why it's the toughest time of your life. Your body is changing, everything is so new, but your brain is pruning. So everyone thinks the brain is fully developed, but the brain grows not in it can't grow in space, right? There's only that much of the skull that is there. So the brain is pruned and regrows, and all the neural pathways that have been strengthened as a child get further re-strengthened, and the neural pathways that have not been used, maybe kindness to yourself, maybe empathy, maybe love, or I don't know, or just using your fingers for something, all the pathways that you have not practiced and used, will the brain automatically prunes those away. So it's a very, very tough space. The most impulsive decisions, the need to untether from parents and role models that you grew up with, and to move on to listening to your peers. Those are the things that happen, right? And those things are not going to change with generation. It was tough for us, it will be tough for them, it will be tough for the generations to come. Adolescence is going
Mhm.
to be a tough period. What I find that I find that it's tougher for teenagers today is the fact that the time when I grew up, our lives were so smaller. It was me, my family, and maybe in school the three friends that I had. Maybe that auntie in this neighborhood and this. That's it. That was my universe.
Mhm.
What they
Yeah.
said, what they did, what we would. Today's generation, just what imagine what lives they have. Imagine how vast the world has become for them. It is no longer just your family and your neighborhood or your school and your friends. Every single thing you know is also known simultaneously across the world. Your information, of what people wear, what people do, how people feel, what people think, is all over the world. It's not your that small insular world that we had. So their worlds are very, very scary, according to me. That is
Mhm.
one part of being in the social media, right? But I feel like the other problem, which, and I don't want to villainize the social media, and I don't want to, I don't. This is this is the
Mhm.
reality, and we have to live in it. But the fact is that we, as the teenagers, are also absorbing the same content that they want to listen. So because there's AI everywhere, what you're looking for will be sent back to you over and over again. So you will not get to see other diverse universes that are existing at the same time. So if I am looking to see how 16-year-old influencers living, then that is the kind of feed and content that will be sent to me.
Yeah.
We don't realize that that feed that is being sent to you is also an engineered feed, and
Yeah.
reality portrayed in the digital domain is fabricated, and this is creating a lot of self-doubt, more discontentment, more lower self-esteem, and unrealistic aspirations, and that has not changed at all. That's gotten worse and worse and worse, and that I feel is like the scary part of the world they live. Yeah, so uh, this book was an attempt to try and see and tell a few stories so that other stories can also come out, because the world is tougher for teenagers today.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think it's tough for teenagers, tough for even us adults. तो जैसे कि आपने बोला
It
कि उनके
is.
ब्रेन में इतने सारे चेंजेस हो रहे हैं तो दे आर मोर
Exactly.
परसेप्टिव. इवन माय डॉटर
Exactly.
इज 7. वो कुछ सोशल मीडिया पे देख लेती है तो शी इज लाइक ये अच्छा लग रहा है, ये खरीद सकते हैं, या फिर उसने ऐसे मेकअप किया है, ऐसे कर सकते हैं. एंड शी यूज टू वॉच बारबी, तो उसने बारबी देखा, उसके बाद शी वाज स्टैंडिंग इन फ्रंट ऑफ अ मिरर, कहती है मम्मा मैं तो बारबी जितनी पतली हूँ, इट्स अ गुड थिंग राइट. तो
Yeah.
उसके मन में भी है, जो कि मैंने कभी नहीं कहा. तो आई हैव नेवर टोल्ड हर दैट बारबी इज थिन और समवन एल्स इज फैट, बट उसको अपने आप आ गया. शी स्टैंड्स एंड शी सेड, एंड आई वाज शॉक्ड कि ये आया कहाँ
Yeah.
से. मतलब तुम
Yeah.
देख रहे हो और उसको न्यूट्रल नहीं देख पाते हैं बच्चे. आई मीन इसका मतलब है कि दे आर कॉन्स्टेंटली ऑब्जर्विंग कि सब जगह कैसे कैसे बॉडी टाइप से क्या क्या चीजें दिख रही हैं, राइट. अभी जैसे आपने टीनेजर्स की बात की और आपने बताया कि उनके लिए और डिफिकल्ट हो गया, एंड वी ऑल आर सीइंग दैट कि
Yeah.
हमारे टाइम से अभी तक, बिकॉज दे हैव अ लॉट ऑफ एक्सपोजर. तो अभी क्या कुछ ऐसा है जो हम कर सकते हैं? जैसे आपने बताया कि यू ग्रू अप, आपने अपना जो पूरा टीनेज था निकाल दिया ये अगली सोचते हुए अपने आप को, व्हेन स्लोली स्लोली यू रियलाइज्ड कि हाँ, आई आई एम ब्यूटीफुल, आई एम गॉर्जियस. तो अभी जो बच्चे हैं उनको कैसे हम लोग बताएं? There are different terms used for body image awareness, positivity, neutrality, I don't know कुछ और भी होगा. तो आपका इन सब चीज़ों पे क्या थॉट है? डू यू थिंक दीज थिंग्स वर्क, एंड इफ दे डू, टू व्हाट एक्सटेंट? और हम क्या कर सकते हैं जो अपनी आगे आने वाली जनरेशन है, जेन जी है, अभी जेन अल्फा है, इनको, जिससे कि बॉडी इमेज इश्यूज में भी मिनिमाइज हो.
I think it's so important to start grounding and telling these stories to the world over and over again. I don't think people realize how much scarring and wounding happens when people name call or say these things, hey fatty, hey pimply, or, oh, you keep quiet, you piece of whatever. This is the easiest way to wound somebody and to cut someone's is body shaming. And people are trolled. In the end, when someone wants to troll you or want to put you down or cut you down to size, it's going to be body shaming only. uh,
Mhm.
how do you how it affects each person is different, because some people it doesn't affect. You can say anything to them, they know exactly who they are. And I feel that one of the ways is to strengthen self-esteem, to know if you how much that is in our hands as parents, and as in schools. It's like a large part of it is in our hands. Just letting a child know that you're good enough, you're enough. These are the things that we have to start working with, because kachra fekna to, and people give out what somebody threw at them. You if you have garbage inside you, you will give garbage out. Does the other person need to pick up the garbage? That comes from a lot of strengthening of muscles, of just being confident of who you are. Nobody can make me feel ashamed of my color or how I look today, because you
Mhm.
can't. I just know I'm none of this affects me now. But at a time when it could affect me, anyone, even the smallest twitch would be enough to for it to wound me. So I think self-esteem building is the only thing we need to do as parents. Everything else the school will do for you, and everybody around will do for you. Our job as parents is to tell our children how amazing they are. Not just simply praise, but also make them not feel incompetent. Let them problem solve themselves, because that's how they know who they are, right? And we tend to overprotect, and then we say, oh, you're amazing, beta, but the child doesn't feel amazing outside. But
Mhm.
actually letting them build that, that I'm competent. It's okay to fall, it's okay to fail, it's okay to stumble, it's all right. It doesn't make me bad or make me feel stupid or make me feel ugly or anything. That is something we as parents, no one teaches us how to do this. We have to, because no one did it for us. This is what we need to learn. Send a child out, who knows who or he or she is. I'm not great at writing. I'm not great at drawing, but if you give me a math problem or you give me some science thing, I'm great at that, and that is perfectly okay. But I am okay being this. We want perfect children who have, my child hates reading. Can you please make my child read? These are the things that
Oh,
parents come with,
yeah.
to us saying, because we are authors, and I'm telling you, as a parent, do you read? No, I don't read. So then why do you want a child to read? Why do we want these perfect, completely sculpted creatures coming out? We that this you're good, you are okay because we have multiple intelligences, and just because I'm only good in history and not good in math, we have an education system that tells us that only children who get this kind of percentages are supposed to be great.
Yeah.
If I'm good in English and maths, and I'm English and history, and I can't understand and process mathematical problems, then I'm dumb. I'm considered dumb in the society. So a lot of things which we need to undo, and only can do that as parents. Find your child's strength and strengthen that, and your child will be fine. None of this will be picked up. That is one thing. The other thing I feel we can do, as we which we can work on, which is in our hands, is to tell stories. Empathy is something that this generation, that there is enough research to show that the children are going to be in spaces where there won't be technically jobs for them. They will have to find solution to their own problems, right? The world is
Mm.
changing so fast. If I don't know human beings around me, if I don't know what my strength is, what that person's strength is, and how we can work as a team to do something, and all of that comes from empathy. Unfortunately, we are so busy getting our children to be perfect in marks, and we are in a space where, because safety has been such an issue, it is, please only look after yourself. We are teaching children to become insular and unempathetic. It's just look after yourself, do your thing. So all of these things, right? So empathy, building empathy, empathetic skills are things that need to be taught. We are teaching our children, apna sambhalo, apna jao. We are all of us. It's no, we're nobody's. It's just the world has become so unsafe that you look after yourself. Your child is the best. That's it. But empathy is a skill that can be taught in schools. It has to be taught at home, just like learning to play an instrument. You learn. I teach you to play violin, and you know how to play violin. Otherwise, we're not born with that skill. We have the skill to learn music, but it's not a specific skill. We have the skill to be empathetic and to listen and to be kind. But if we are taught to not do that, then how are we going to know? How are we going to do it? We are taught that look after yourself. You come first. You do this beta. That's enough. It doesn't matter anything else whether this happens or doesn't happen, right? So
Mhm.
these two things I think are the very very strong points. One is uh, teach empathy to your children. Second is you're good enough. If whatever your strength, strengthen that strength, and that if the child feels competent there in that skill, the child is not going. Nothing is going to bother the child as they grow up as human beings too. And other one is tell stories. How do I know that between a bully and the bullied, does the bully know what the bullied felt, and does the bullied know what the bully was, why the bully was doing it? We don't even swap stories. We
Yeah.
don't tell. We don't sit together to listen. What is happening? What made you want to um, body shame somebody or pull somebody's hair or knock somebody down? What were you feeling when you did that? Did you feel good at the end of it? Okay. No judgment over here. Ask the bullied. Sit there together in a conversation. What did you feel when you stumbled and fell? What did you feel when someone said this, called you a fatty? What happened when you went back home? These are the stories. This is what we're not doing as a society. Building empathy as a skill. And I feel that the only way we can do it is to tell stories. One of the ways. If the book that we wrote was to talk about different parts of body positivity. It's not body positivity. I promise you, it's about vulnerabilities. If
Yes.
I no longer feel anything about my skin is because I don't no longer feel vulnerable about it. There are people lighter skin than me who, if I say something about being dark skin, will feel miserable today, and it won't affect me at all because I'm not feeling vulnerable anymore. I know that in my children's classroom there were children who were bigger than my son or my daughter in size, and you could not go and body shame them about their size because they were very very confident kids. But my son or my daughter would have felt terrible about being big or being fat, being obese or whatever. So I'm just saying it's about the minute vulnerabilities are conversations we have, and I tell you about other vulnerabilities, and because I never knew that somebody was fair skinned and they had a problem with it, and they
Mm.
suffered from it, but this book
Yeah.
talks about it.
Yes.
I would we know, my sister-in-law never told me that she never knew that dark skinned people get bullied. I was like, what?
Mm.
All my life I've heard about this. Well, somebody was saying, oh my god, I have been bullied so much because I was flat chested. It was like, are you a woman or a man? Your gender's question about it.
Mm.
Me with my short hair, being all my life being asked, are you ladka or ladki?
Oh.
I grew up and had children, and my children's friends would ask, that's your mom or your dad, just because hair, short hair, what things like that. It can be small and petty, and it can not affect or not affect you. But knowing multiple stories, know that these can be hurtful. Our conversations that we can have, we should have, and hopefully these stories can bring about other stories. If we have these conversations in our homes, if we normalize feeling bad,
Mm.
and also being open to the fact that somebody else can feel hurt, and that wounding takes years to get repaired, you
Mm.
know
Yes.
uh, then we've started a journey, because we can only start journeys, and leave it open for other people to pick up from there. And I'm hoping that these things can be picked up.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And we as parents have to do a lot of work on ourselves for, to get there to teach these things to our children, or even if teachers at school want to do such things, which you have mentioned, ki stories batana, empathy, self-esteem. Teachers are also not ready. I have seen in the school, अगर किसी बच्चे ने किसी को push कर दिया तो वो डांट देंगे बिठा देंगे, like they don't know what you have just said, कि पूछो आपने क्यों किया, ये कोई नहीं पूछता, डांट दिया, right? तो Vinitha, I want to understand from you, how did you get to this place? Like, you grew up feeling not beautiful, now it doesn't bother you. How?
Yeah, I think I've just worked my way through it. A lot of help with therapy, a lot of failures in relationships, in the professional space, lot of working my way through all of this. I just found out now none of this affect me. I do my work with my head down, discipline, putting in that kind of hours, not looking at Instagram that often and thinking, oh my god, even she has a book out, even she has a book out, even he has a book out, and things like that. Because that is another space, right? And he's got an award. The awards thing will start happening, and then everyone seems to be doing so well, and you think, oh god, I'm struggling here. But yeah, it's like learning to put in your work per day, learning to remember who you are, grounding yourself, and working my way through a lot of failures to become, then to do, keep at it. There is nothing like failure or success. It's just like a winding road, and every time we hear best-selling authors and award-winning authors also talking of it, and it's so comforting to know that every time you're at the peak, it's all great over there, but at every peak we have to remind ourselves that we were down at the abyss, and that it was tough there, and we know how to get back here, because that's the way, and that is the way it is. Emotional growth is also like that. There are days, I know of influencers and body positive influencers who also
Mhm.
struggle with how they feel about their body. And there are days when they
Yeah.
feel like, I love how I am. And there are days when you don't love who you are. It's not a linear thing. To remind yourself that
Mm.
it's okay to
True.
not feel okay today is a whole other journey. Because again, even when that person is saying, I'm not feeling okay today, when that influencer is saying this, again the angle is in a particular way. Again, the information is fabricated. And it is hard to, when you're there, to come out of it enough, to resurface enough to know that, um, there are tough days. I've had it. I know how to do this. But that's a muscle that you keep strengthening. And as I strengthen that muscle of mine to remind myself that I've had bad days, I can know how to do this. I can get out of it. I know these are my tools that I use to work my way out of it, and I use them. If I don't use them regularly, I'll forget to use them when I'm down, because downs make you forget. They completely brain fog you, you
Yes.
know, and you forget how great you are, how amazing you are, how you have achieved all the things that you've done despite a lot of challenges. And to remind yourself is something you have to practice every day. Like you're practicing every day going for a walk, whether your body wants to go for a walk or not. Going hitting the gym, whether you want to hit the gym or not. Having a bad hair day, or having a day when you're fully, forget how you're looking, how you're not able to perform at your workspace. All of these things are nothing is linear. We struggle. It is the way it is. Strengthening those muscles of, it's okay, I can take a break today, it's okay to not feel okay, and getting back at it, putting in those five or six things that help you regulate, self regulation. These are the things that really 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 help.
Yes, I totally
Information
agree.
is available, this
Mm-hmm.
world is full of information. How to use it, when to use it, that only a human, that only you can do, right? You can access this. So yeah,
Yeah, I really agree with everything you have said, and I think a lot of things I can take away and start using. And
yeah.
one thing that I would like to ask you, Vinita, कि as parents, we have to work on ourselves and work on our kids, work with them. कैसे करें कि उनकी सेल्फ एस्टीम बढ़े, क्योंकि हमारी खुद की नहीं है उतनी अच्छी, एंड वी आर डूइंग थेरेपी और वट एवर द लाइक द वर्क द लाइक्स एवरीथिंग। तो ऐसी कोई सिंपल चीज़ है जो मे बी हम अपने आप से और अपने बच्चों से रोज कह सकते हैं, या मे बी कोई ऐसा एक्शन हो जो हम कर सकते हो अपने बच्चों का, लिटिल रिमाइंडर्स फॉर अस एंड फॉर आवर किड्स?
I really feel that we are we can't teach our children anything. We can only be working at ourselves, honestly. If I say shant ho ja beta, shant ho ja beta, if my son or daughter is throwing a tantrum or whatever, or is struggling through something, and if I when I'm struggling through something, I'm going to throw a tantrum or I'm going to scream and shout, that the learning the child picks up from the parent, not the words, from the action. So our children are absorbing constantly. They are wired and they are connected to us. And even if you think that you're calm right now, but you have an upheaval and you're struggling through something, your child is able to pick up those vibes. The children know. We have to understand the children know. If we are kinder to ourselves, if we are if we forgive ourselves for things that we are not able to do, if we put this into practice, I feel those are the things that children pick up. I'm telling you this through all the mistakes I've made as a young parent. Expecting our children to be anything different from what we are is something that is not going to happen. You can send them to the best of schools and everyone's talking softly to each other, and but if at home parents are shouting at each other, or is unkind to somebody who's serving them, children pick that up. No matter what you say, respect your elders, respect everyone serving you. If you are doing this, your children are going to pick it up. It's very very rare that they don't. So I think it's having a young child is such an amazing journey, because one, you really get to know who you are.
Yeah.
In theory we can say a lot of things, I love you, and you don't know how much you can love until you have a child. Only then you know what love really means, how it expands to mean something so much bigger than who you are. That is one thing. Secondly, enjoy that journey. Learn and work. Your child is teaching you so many things about you that you don't have to teach your children anything. That I promise you, if you're a good listener of your child, if you can give the child that absolute listening time, and you will know then what that child is crying, or why the child is extra cheerful today. It takes, I'm using maybe a very bad example, but when my son, who's 17 years old, is extra happy and cheerful, if I am very preoccupied and I'm listening to him, I will I connect just to the superficial layer of him being cheerful, and it's gone. Yeah, he's perfect right now. Everything's fine. There are times when I'm actually fully present, if you know what I mean, and I make him sit down and say, "What's going on? You seem to be extremely happy and cocky," and he's like, "Everything's fine with me. What do you mean? What did I do?" And we have a conversation, and then a lot of things come out. So sometimes it's not sometimes, all the time. We are ourselves as a generation very preoccupied with a lot of things. So one is forgive yourself for that. It's really okay. But if you can give your child complete listening and complete being, you will know the tantrum will not happen. If it happens, you'll know the reason why it's happening. You will know that the tantrum is happening is probably for a very good reason. They are distraught about something else. So a lot of things happen if you're just there fully present. And I know that may sound like really bad advice, but
It's
for
not.
me this is what I've learned in the wisdom of me being a teenage parent right now, but also learned as a parent of a young parent and a parent of young children, working full time, managing living in a joint family, having more than 3 4 children actually there, but there and not there was epitome of my life. Physically, when I was present, I thought I was present, but my head was working with deadlines, with also what is the next thing I need to do for my child. Has he finished eating enough? What is the next class? How many things we are juggling, and that so the complaint that's come from school about him pushing somebody, or complaint that's coming about her being harassed because of something else, all of these things we are not there fully. I would say no advice, just love yourself enough, and I promise you that that love that you can feel for yourself will has so much benefits that a child will benefit. When you're at peace with yourself, when you're happy with yourself, when you're okay with not being okay and not being perfect, and you're in that space, that benefit is got that dividends that will be there is going to be felt by yourself, of course, by your family around you, but most importantly by your child. There's nothing more you need to teach. Just be there, be happy with yourself.
Love it. And Vinita, before I let you go, I want to talk a little about your book, Hug Yourself. So,
Yes,
this book, okay, I was reading it, and there are stories of kids who are fat, who are thin, who are dark, who are light skinned, different kind of
yes,
hair, or even some conditions which they are dealing with. Okay,
yes,
and I was like, okay, अच्छा ऐसा भी होता है, ऐसा भी feel कर सकते हैं. Then there was this story called Darken My Kajal. Okay.
yes,
And when I started reading it, I was judging that girl. I myself
yes.
was judging that girl कि ये टीनेजर है, ये स्कूल जाती है, इसको 15 स्टेप स्किन केयर करने की क्या जरूरत है, इसको
जरूरत है।
अपनी स्कर्ट शॉर्टन करने की क्या जरूरत है, राइट? इवन आई वाज जजिंग हर
Yes,
कि कुछ
yes,
अब ऐसा आएगा कि उसको रियलाइज हो जाएगा उसको ऐसा नहीं करना चाहिए, राइट? और उसको हुआ, बट शी
right,
रियलाइज कि नहीं, दैट इज व्हाट शी इज, राइट? तो
yes.
that story opened my eyes to different thing, different angle. मेरी सोसाइटी में ऐसे टीनेजर्स हैं who are like her, and when I see them I'm like, यार ये स्कूल के बच्चे, why do they live like this? But now I understand. So thank you for including that also.
I will. I'm so glad these stories are out there, because even as we write and as we edit, we are also reading stories where we are thinking to ourselves, like, okay, should she be having? So a lot of the story was edited. She has a piercing in her nail, which is a jewelry piercing, and as editors, we were telling her, take it off. She can't be in school with those. And Suha telling us that school girls have it. They do have nail piercings, they have jewels stuck on them, and they take it off in school, they bring it back in, things like that. So yeah, we're judging all the time, even as we write and edit, and we're learning as we write and edit. And yeah, and the story was to say that sometimes while we're doing all these things because we are so attractive, we also believe underlined message would be that you are doing this, and therefore you are also soliciting attention from of the wrong kind. Which at
Yeah.
the end of the story, she tries to wear a very loose T-shirt, and she's not even doing she's not even doing any of the things. None of the regime that she follows is being followed anymore, and she's got these
Mhm.
dark circles which are merging with her kajal, and they're getting darker
Mhm.
and darker. And then she wears the loosest T-shirt, and then it still gets things. And in her head, she thinks she's being groped, and then she realizes that so that's yeah, interesting story.
I was also raised like that. Even my father was would say कि बाल ऐसे क्यों करने हैं, किसकी अटेंशन चाहिए, शॉर्ट टॉप क्यों
Yeah,
पहना है, इट
right, right.
अट्रैक्ट्स अटेंशन, या फिर अपने नेल्स लंबे क्यों किए हैं. तो ही ऑल्सो यूज टू से थिंग्स लाइक दैट. तो दैट्स व्हाई
Yeah.
आई वाज जजिंग दैट गर्ल फॉर डूइंग दीज थिंग्स, इवन दो एट हर एज आई probably also wanted to do those things.
I think largely as parents, of daughters, we worry about safety, and it comes
Mhm.
from that space. But the way we say it is always said to shame, and
Yes.
and that is what and we don't pick up only words. The child picks up emotions also, right? So shame means you have done something shameful, and shame is a there's a whole study on the space of shame where it tells you that shaming someone has never had any positive effect. Never had has shame been able to um, be an agent of anything positive.
True.
And yet, we as parents, the first thing we say, shame on you. It's like that, and we think that shame is going to stop or prevent someone from doing something further again. But the negative effects of shaming are far more poisonous than the prevention that it's trying to do. I think it just wounds so much. We have to think a lot about these things as
Yeah.
parents.
Yes, yes. Please tell us how my listeners can connect with you online or find out more about your work.
Oh, I have my website. It's called vinithastories.com. I have a Wikipedia page. So if you
I
do
love that.
Vinitha, an author, you'll find my Wikipedia page. I think with my website, you should be able to get in touch with me. I have my all my links on that. I'm on Instagram as Vinitha Stories too. And
Mhm.
yeah, I love to hear from listeners and readers and anyone who's got a story to share about how they've struggled with something and how they're doing okay now. Maybe we can have an online repository of stories about body positivity where you
True.
know
We
yeah,
need
and
that,
we
yeah.
know, yeah, we need resources like this, yeah, to know more stories and to make us more empathetic and to be in somebody else's shoes. Because I promise you, empathy and teaching a child empathy is going to be the biggest investment of the future.
Yes, yes. So, Vinita, thank you for enlightening us with your words. Thank you for writing such a beautiful book. And thank you for giving your time and insights to Little Fixes.
Completely my pleasure. It's been such an honor, and I never felt anything more than just I. I felt like I had a friend in you, and I could hear and listen, and it was so nice being here. Thank you so much, Maitri.
अगर आपको ये एपिसोड वैल्यूबल लगा तो प्लीज हेल्प लिटिल फिक्सेस रीच मोर पीपल बाय शेयरिंग इट विद समवन यू केयर अबाउट. यू कैन ऑल्सो गिव अस अ शाउट आउट ऑन इंस्टाग्राम. मेरा हैंडल है @littlepixespodcast. दिस हेल्प्स मी इन ग्रोइंग द पॉडकास्ट और बहुत सारे और लोगों की हेल्प भी होती है इसको सुन के. आई एम ग्रेटफुल फॉर योर टाइम. अब मिलते हैं नेक्स्ट वेडनेसडे को. तब तक के लिए खुद से प्यार करते रहो और सदा सैसी रहो. बाय. When I started this podcast in 2019, I didn't know much about the tools available and struggled with poor audio quality, blurry videos, and even losing the recording. Now I have switched to Zencaster. Zencaster not only gives me high quality audio and video podcast production, but also keeps the recording safe with its multi-layer backups even when the internet is unstable. It has a post-production feature which automatically removes sounds like and also reduces background noise with a click of a button. Go to zencaster.com/pricing and use my code LFP and you will get 30% off your first month of any Zencaster paid plan. I want you to have the same easy experiences I do for all my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. Zencaster is free to try and their hobbies plan is always free.